welcome to another episode of Side Draft Media. My name is Don. With me, my co-host Ryan, as always, and Nathan, of course, always behind the scenes doing his thing. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. We got so much to cover, from Xfinity points, Cup points, cutoff races, playoffs, round of eights. Man, we got a ton to cover. But first, of course, I want to shout out our amazing sponsor, Mr. Don Tucker and Tucker'd Out Custom Diecast Displays. He 3D prints custom displays for your 124 size diecast. He can create any team, any sponsor really that you're looking for, any color combinations you're looking for. We'll leave his links down in the description below so that you can check those out, and make sure to leave him a little bit of love while you're at it. Ryan, man, we got a cutoff race looming this weekend. What do you got for me, man?
Yeah, two cutoff races that are bound to be wild, I'm sure. This is the birthplace of Merry Off-Season and Happy Christmas, the Charlotte Roval. So, we got an exciting two races for sure, with both the Xfinity and the Cup Series having a cutoff race and going into the round of eight. Um, and it's the ultimate wild card is a road course, right? Because you got you got drivers that tend to favor road courses a little bit better than others, and we'll certainly talk about that. But then you also have the simple fact that all these guys know they need to get it this weekend. They need to go after it, and there's some changes to the track. Even the Charlotte Roval's had some reconfigurations. Um, you know that might seem subtle, but at the same time it's slightly different.
Right.
So, we'll see how that all plays out. Especially, our first crack at the bat is at the Xfinity Series. So let's get into that.
Real
We
quick,
got
would you rather have a plate race as a wild card cutoff race, or would you rather have a road course? What I'm kind of curious as your thoughts on that.
well, I mean, we already had the wild card of the Dega Derby.
Right.
Um, in my opinion, I'd rather see a road course. Um, in particular, this road course.
Okay.
Because this road course isn't your typical road course. It's a smaller road course. It has some really fast sections, and then it has some really tight winding turns.
Right.
Um,
Pretty technical.
that yeah, that make it more technical. So I think you get a little bit of the best of both worlds. And honestly, a plate race is just too much of a wild card.
Right.
Yes, track position matters at a road course race as much as it may have mattered this past weekend at Talladega. But what I feel like you get the more opportunity is this is more of a skill thing. And when you're in the postseason, skill matters.
Right.
Whereas in and please don't take it wrong that it doesn't require skill to run four wide at close to 200 miles per hour. But at the same time, it's like a high speed parking lot. What we
Right.
saw this past weekend in the pack racing that happened, it's just hard to maneuver. At least with a road course, you do get a little bit of opportunity for, skill to play a factor, track position, strategies, when to pit, how long you're going to stay in pit road. All those things are going to come into play this weekend. So I'm going to have to side with the Roval. That's just my. That's just and also because one wrong move doesn't necessarily take out and wipe out an entire field,
Right.
an entire playoff, uh, implication off of one bad move.
Right.
So that's kind of why I side with the Roval a little bit. I don't know how you lean, but that's the side I think I have to go to.
I enjoy the plate racing. I think there's a lot of strategy that goes into plate racing. Obviously, we're not really fans of the fuel save, but that's a product of what 2024. That's a part of the strategy these days. I
Right.
like the high intensity. I do enjoy some of the pack racing as it can get very intense. There are times throughout the afternoon on Sunday afternoon, I'm sitting on my bed and I'm all clenched up and I'm like, oh man, I'm not even in the race, but I'm just like on edge of what's going to happen next. As far as a road course or a plate race as a cutoff race, and especially heading into the round of eight, yeah, I would have to lean towards a road course, mainly because it's a better equalizer across the field. And like you said, the whole little mistake taking out 20 cars compared to if somebody makes a mistake, they spin off into the grass and they start at the back of the pack. So it kind of helps as far as keeping your playoff run and your season alive for some of these guys that get caught up in some of the mess. So I'd have to agree that the road course is probably the better option for a cutoff race in the playoffs.
Right. Yeah. And well, I mean, at this Roval though, y- you have that ability to make a mistake and completely take yourself out of the race entirely, especially in turn one. It's so tight.
Yep. You've seen
If
it
you
every
miss,
single year.
yeah, if you miss it, you lock it up, you could end up in that barrier, and just totally ruin your race.
Or
So
you could be Chase Elliott in 2021 and miss turn one entirely and turn around, win the race, and celebrate on the same spot you wrecked at earlier that race.
yeah, that was wild. That was wild and a heck of a comeback. But these are different cars than we saw in 21 as well. And
100%.
and I think that in itself plays into this
Absolutely.
um as well.
But we haven't
Now,
seen drivers like Chase Elliott be as successful with the next gen car compared to how many road races he was winning, including his first career win, road being a road course win.
right, at Watkins Glen. Yep, absolutely. Um, Another fast road course, right? So
Very
this, we'll definitely circle back in because I believe that Chase Elliott's going to have to be a topic of conversation today.
correct.
Um, but I want to look at these Xfinity cars first, a race that I don't believe he's running. And the you talk about people that are successful on a road course and have had a lot of success on a road course. This race absolutely has to scream Shane Van Gisbergen.
Yeah,
He's going to be a factor, and if you sleep on him, you know, you might get dusted by him this weekend. Now we're also going to have to talk about his teammate AJ Allmendinger. But first, before we get into these guys who are really good road course ringers, we have to give a shout out to Sammy Smith, who locked himself in to the next round in virtue of his win at Talladega, and everybody else is not locked in. Although I will say the second place points standing holder and Chandler Smith should be a near lock. He's plus 64.
just get out there,
Um,
get yourself a top 10, top 15, get you a little stage points, you'll be just fine.
yeah, I think if he locks up some stage points in round one, he should be absolutely fine to advance to the next round. I can't say the same for anybody else though, because third place is plus 37, Cole Custer. It's a nice cushion, but there is still too much level of uncomfortability there at
Right.
plus 37 because if you happen to have a bad stage one, where others that are chasing you have a good stage one, or you knock yourself out of the race in stage one, you could be on the outside looking in, even from third place. Now, again, this is a round of eight that we're going into. Only eight
Right.
drivers are making it, so um, Cole's
And one of
definitely,
these spots claimed.
yeah, Cole's definitely got to be on the offensive, but also on the defensive at the same time, and race these first two stages very, very clean and try to get some stage points himself. So it makes it a little bit easier for him to advance to the next round.
Absolutely.
Um, at a deadlock at plus 37 is Austin Hill. And by virtue of a tiebreaker, Cole Custer is on top of him in the points. So if those two are at a deadlock at 8 and 9 going into the next round, we know Cole Custer gets that tiebreaker. If for some reason something like that wild happens, but
Right.
um, and then Sheldon Creed right behind them at plus 32. Jesse Love is at plus 22. Riley Herbst plus 20. AJ Allmendinger actually got himself above the cut line at +7. And then you see uh, some surprises, at least one, in my opinion, a big surprise down here in ninth place on the outside looking in is Justin Allgaier.
Right.
Justin had such a good regular season. I mean, he was almost the regular season champion, but a slide of bad luck and misfortune on the track, um, it just seems to have plagued him from a couple races prior to the cutoff for for the chase for the championship, and
Right.
then while in here, it just hasn't been going well. He sees himself 7 points below the cut, and I personally had him in the championship 4. So I'm as shocked as anybody else seeing him, on the outside looking in here. It just it's racing, right? And that's why we have to race the races because they're just they're not as predictable as one may seem.
Right.
Another guy below the cut, Shane Van Gisbergen. He's 10 points below the cut. We're going to circle back to him in a second. Sam Mayer at -13, and then Parker Klingerman is -16. Any of those guys below the cut right now, by virtue of points, aren't mathematically eliminated and
Right.
very much alive, very much alive. So that's why I want to say we want to circle back around and talk about Shane Van Gisberg, and I'll put you on the spot, Don. You've seen Shane running these road course races and darn near winning all of them. So let's talk about him for a second because I think he has to be discussed in detail here.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, Shane is who Shane is. He is a master at these road courses. He proved it by stepping into NASCAR in 2023 in the Cup Series and saying, "Hey guys, check this out," and going out there and taking a trophy from all these professional Cup guys that have been doing it for years, right? So then we see him get a full-time Xfinity ride, and what does he do? He goes out and knocks off 3 road courses, arguably 4 if the mishap with Austin Hill at Coda doesn't happen, and he's got another trophy there. So Shane is.
Sorry to cut you off, but remind me, how many road course races have we run in Xfinity this year?
I think they run 1 less than Cup, so I think they would be at 6, whereas Cup runs 7. Now I'm not exactly sure on those numbers, but I think that's how it goes. We're talking about 4 out of the 6 road courses Shane could have a win at, and then you're talking about a possible 5th out of the 6, coming tomorrow. So obviously Shane is the cream of the crop of this, right there with his teammate Alliance, AJ Allmendinger. Those two, look for them to unload really, really fast. Look for them to be getting stage points like crazy and making it really hard on those guys that are above the cut line, because they're not just going to lay over and die, and especially guys like AJ and Shane when they're the best of the best at these types of tracks.
Absolutely, and as far as another road course that I feel like when I'm talking about Shane Van Gisbergen, was absolutely in contention to win was Watkins Glen,
Right.
just had things happen there. Connor Zilich was absolutely lights out at Watkins Glen,
Right.
from practice to qualifying, to the race. Was able to stretch the fuel, make it work. And captured his first ever win in his first ever start. Seen that before on a road course. You just mentioned Shane Van Gisbergen doing
Right.
that in the Cup Series.
Absolutely.
But you just mentioned a name that we absolutely need to talk about in AJ Allmendinger, Shane's teammate in Collard Racing. Um, he has won 4 times at this track. We've run 6 races at this track.
That's not by
Uh,
accident.
no. So gotta discuss AJ Allmendinger. And oh yeah, by the way, we're gonna talk about him in a little bit when we're talking about the Cup guys as well.
Yep.
But AJ Allmendinger, 4 out of 6. Repeat that, 4 out of 6.
Yeah.
So gotta think that AJ Allmendinger has got this one circled. Now again, he raced himself above the cut. He's +7 above the cut line, and he's got this one circled. So he's going to be strong. Shane's going to be strong. Um, and by the way, if Shane's 10 below the cut and happens to win this race, he locks himself into the next round by virtue of win. So
Right.
he could potentially bump one of these other drivers. Um, could be even his own teammate that he bumps out of the next round, the round of 8. But looking at the points, Riley Herbst, depending how his day goes, he's only +20. If AJ has a great day, stage 1, stage 2, he could pass Riley Herbst in points
Right.
and secure himself in just by virtue of running really strong, even if he loses to Shane. And Riley could get bumped. So it this is wild, and that's why it's hard to look at these numbers as I just keep doing and guess how this finishes, because I also think that Justin Allgaier is going to be somebody who's going to give it absolutely their all, only being below 7. Um, So absolutely wild, wild possibilities here. Now, I look at the data and I'm trying to look through here at active drivers in Xfinity series and how they finished. Now, Austin Cindric and Noah Gragson aren't running this race, and they would have been second and third as far as best average finish, but we got to exclude them. So the best average finish by far is AJ Allmendinger. Um, it's insane. He's got um, those 4 out of 6 races that he's um, only ran 4 races, by the way. So every time he's run in Xfinity in this car, he's won. That's scary.
It's not it's not by accident either.
No,
He
no.
can absolutely wheel that car around this style of track. It's actually really beautiful to see that how technical and how precise he is at these types of tracks.
Now we mentioned Cole Custer and how if he had a bad day or not as good stages could worry. However, this track actually suits him as far as road courses go. His average finish is 5.7. Now that's in a collective 3 races.
Right,
So that's pretty good. Not something that you really can turn your head away from.
right.
Something to keep an eye on as far as him running actually really well at the Roval. Also, Sam Mayer. Now, Sam Mayer in 3 races has an average finish of 7.3. And oh, by the way, he's won here. So, that's also something that I feel like we need to keep in mind because right now, as far as how points sit, Sam Mayer's on the outside looking in. So,
Right,
if he happens to show up and have a dominant car and wins the race, he could win himself in. And he's proven that he can win at this track. So something to keep an eye on. Now, again, there's only been 6 races held here. The other winner at this track is not racing tomorrow, and that's Chase Briscoe.
right,
That eh, looking at the standings, then, an active drivers, Brandon Jones, 14.8 average finish. And that's in 6 races, by the way. Justin Allgaier, 15.5 in 6 races. Jeremy Clements, actually in 6 races is at 15.7. And then in 4 races, Riley Herbst is a name that pops here because among the active drivers, he is next in line here with a very strong average finish. He does have a top five and a top uh, and and a top 10 here, as well as two. I'm sorry, my mistake. Yes, a top five, a top 10, and two top 20s here in his 4 races. So he can get around this track. And, guys like Austin Hill are kind of buried a little further down looking at things like that. So it's important to try to look at those averages. I know it's any given Sunday, or in this case, Saturday, but I feel like it matters because it gives you a litmus of how drivers perform at certain tracks, and especially a road course, right? They're unique tracks. It's not just unloading at an oval or an intermediate track.
right.
The uniqueness of the Roval makes a difference in how these guys, the driving styles and things like that. And again, one of the reasons Shane Van Gisbergen is so good at road courses is because that's what he knows. That's his bread and butter.
Yep.
He circles them all and says, "I want to win them all." And it's hard to argue against him. He's proven it.
The results always there unless he gets in the very rare instance that he gets caught up in somebody else's mishaps. He's at
Right.
the he's at the front of the pack, whether it be Cup or Xfinity. So, and it's not by accident. The guy can drive a race car, and
Absolutely.
we're starting to see that transfer over to the oval side too, which is getting really interesting. He doesn't get taken out of that Talladega race, and he's competing for a win at the end of that thing.
Yeah, and
So,
he might not be on the outside looking in either, as far as the points this week, as well. So,
right,
um, and his restrictor plate racing has gotten a lot better,
right.
and the intermediate tracks are starting to click along as well. And when he figures out the ovals, and he will,
He is.
um, yeah, he will and he is. But when that consistency on the oval tracks comes, he's gonna be a threat every single week.
Absolutely,
And I'm really excited to see what he does in a cup car next year full time because
absolutely.
the cup guys are not happy about the fact that he's showing up in every single road course race. knowing that he's a threat there.
Well,
And if he does win one, he's locking himself into the playoffs with the current playoff system the way it is.
any Cup
So
driver that is affected by Shane entering their series, I got something to say to y'all. And hey, be better. Go be
yeah,
better than him.
go try to beat him.
Go beat
Um,
him. That's it.
yeah. Now we've laid it all out there. We got the points. We got this Roval track. Go ahead. Give me your pick. Give me your winner.
You know,
Who
I
who
think
you,
it's
who
I
you
think
think's
in
missing it?
I think as far as who's missing it, that's going to be really interesting. I can see Austin Hill finding himself in some trouble. Tends to be a little bit more on the aggressive side when his back's against the wall, ends up getting him into trouble more than it actually helps him from experience. Um, Something about Riley Herbst is just not clicking quite right for me as far as heading into this race. He seems to be making little mistakes that's taking himself and his team out of contention. And unless he gives me a reason to think otherwise, I'm going to assume that's what's going to happen at the road course tomorrow. Um, as far as we covered all the numbers, we covered the drivers all the way across the board. It's really hard to root against guys like Shane and Cole and AJ. I just don't see AJ pulling himself out of the headache that has been the playoff run this year for him. I think there's too many other drivers that are a little bit better than him when when it comes down to the nitty gritty. That's nothing against Justin Allgaier. I love him as a driver. It's just I'm just going off of what I see right now. Go ahead and give me Shane as far as getting out of the Roval with a win and locked into the round of 8. If I had to pick a dark horse,
Yeah,
technically, let's take a look at our defending Xfinity champion, Cole Custer. Winning at Bristol. It's really hard to bet against him. It's really hard to knock a champion off their throne. And given everything that's going on at Stuart Haas, they want to win even more with everything going on behind the scenes there. So, give me the 97 and the 00 as my winner and dark horse. But I'm really interested in your picks because I know this is something you've been sitting on for a little while. So let's have it, man.
man. Can I just pick colleague?
One,
I,
two, one,
I
two.
mean, it's just easy.
Yeah,
um, it's hard. It's hard, so hard to pick against the guy who's won 4 times here already, and
really.
then a guy who I know very well can win here, and they're going to be very comparable equipment. It's tough, and so you went Shane, and I think Shane is going to have a very strong day, stack some stage points, and finish very well.
Okay.
But I think that Shane's going to win this race too. AJ Allmendinger is also going to have a great day, though. They could go 1-2.
They really could.
And I think that Allmendinger, because of his performance and ability to run really well here, um, that he will stay above the cut line. I don't think he misses the round of 8 because of how good he is here. And honestly, AJ has clawed his way from below the cut the last couple weeks to above it, and um, really solid runs. And I think it continues this week. He's not my dark horse though. I mean, it's too easy to pick him. It's too
Right.
easy to pick Shane. Um, my dark horse, um, you know, it's tough. It's really tough to pick a dark horse in this situation. Uh, but he's won here before, um, and can run really well here. So I'm gonna pick my dark horse as Sam Mayer, and that's because he is not having those great runs you would see out of a junior motorsports team.
Right.
He's 13 below the cut. Now we saw junior motorsports win this past week with Sammy Smith locking himself in. And man, so I think Sam may have a good run here, and dare I say, I mean, even if he doesn't win and runs really well here, he could point himself in, because it's so tight, those margin for error. If Shane wins, uh, if he really does win this race, I think he's going to end up bumping out one of Jesse Love or Riley Herbst.
Right.
And just the way that these points look and are sitting, I actually think it's, believe it or not, I actually think it's going to be Jesse Love. Um, I think I think both the RCR cars might have some issues this week, and they, again, you pointed out the aggression factor for Austin Hill. He's taken himself out of races at road courses in particular, um, and in tight battles, and just I could definitely see the RCR cars having some struggles. Not trying to hate on them, but
No, no
you
hate.
know,
They
it
unload
it's
average. They're gonna have a long day if they unload in the
yeah.
if the 15s to 20s. I guarantee it.
I agree. And, somebody minus 16, talk about dark horse that could potentially point themselves in. What if Parker Klingerman comes from 12th to 8th? And I can see it happening. He runs road courses pretty decent. So,
Absolutely. You just
it's
saw a guy go from 12th to first. So
yeah, I mean that could happen too. I mean wow, that would be an upset if Parker Klingerman won this race. I am not picking him. That's just going out on a limb. But I
possibility.
only 16 below the cut. If he can put together some good stages and a really strong finish, and other guys have misfortune, he could capitalize. Again, I'm watching Justin Allgaier too. I just, um, it could be even a situation where Jesse Love and Justin Allgaier, Austin Hill and Jesse Allgaier take each other out of this race, and it's like, whoa, okay, there you go.
Absolutely.
It's that's
Listen, if I had to place $100 bet on if I think there's going to be a maybe not an actual fist fight, but an actual very angry discussion on pit road after this race, I would put it on the Xfinity and those guys because
how
when
tight it is.
when these laps start winding down and as well as these cars can pass and actually get really racy with each other, and then nobody's used to the configuration yet. So those little 1 inch, we saw Shane Van Gisbergen make a 1 inch mistake at Watkins Glen and cost himself a cup win.
Yes.
We're talking about a reconfiguration of this track where everybody's got to get used to it. You miss those marks by an inch and you're spinning people out. So
Yeah,
it's going
practice will be
to be pretty
important.
well, man.
Yeah. Um, Now the cup guys. It's like, it's and
My goodness.
I will say it's tight with the cup drivers as well.
Yeah,
Um, More so the drivers above the cut than necessarily below the cut.
right.
Um, and again, we have a body of work that shows us uh, five different winners on this track so far. Um, the only two-time winner is Chase Elliott, and
Not in the next gen.
not in the next gen. So again, that's important, and not on this track configuration.
Right.
So that's important. And to be honest, we haven't seen him win on a road course in a long time.
Yeah.
Uh, that dominance that we spoke of in the beginning of this episode, it's not there. Not to say that it can't be, because anytime I pick against the Hendrick driver, it seems like they come swinging at me
Here you
and make
come,
and
right?
make me put my foot in my mouth. So, I said William Byron was not going to make it into the next round of 8, and he's the only one that's locked into the next round of 8.
Yep.
Not by win either.
But he
He
got the
pointed
point.
himself in there.
Yep.
That's just wild. He's plus 74, and he pointed himself in there.
Yep. He ain't messing
Uh,
around.
Christopher Bell and his crew chief Adam Stevens pretty much says he feels like they're just a lock. Start
Right.
the race, keep it clean,
Right.
a stage, and they're locking in. They're plus 57, so they feel very confident. And you would have to think that Kyle Larson and his crew chief Cliff Daniels also feel very confident at plus 52,
Right.
that they'll make that next round,
I think if they
of
start the
8.
race, Kyle Larson, I think the technical point lock is like 54 or 56. So if you're 56 above the cut when the start of the race happens, that pretty much locks you in.
Right.
So I think if Kyle starts this race, he's going to be locked in a few laps in, pretty much.
Right, right, and yeah, so I mean, not much exciting in the top of the points here. William Byron, Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson. They're all advancing. Yeah,
Right.
I would be absolutely shocked if something happened to where And I would honestly think it would only be Larson. I really do think Bell's a virtue of lock at
Right.
this point. So,
But
but
Larson's
yeah,
being very
it's not
gifted.
happening.
Yeah,
It's
Larson's too gifted at road courses. He'll be just fine.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not happening. Now we get into fourth place, plus 30, Denny Hamlin. Plus 26 for Alex Bowman in fifth. Plus 25, Ryan Blaney in sixth. Tyler Reddick got himself above the cut line with misfortunes from others at Talladega at plus 14. And man, he was sweating it. We know he was.
Yep.
But he's there right now, as of right now, advancing. And then Chase Elliott is 1 point behind him, plus 13 in eighth at the on the bubble, as they say. Now below the cut, past champion of this sport, Joey Logano, minus 13. Uh, Daniel Suarez, minus 20. The 11th place is Austin Cindric at minus 29. And in 12th place is Chase Briscoe at minus 32. I'm just going to flat out come out and say this. If Chase Briscoe and Austin Cindric want to advance to the next round of playoffs, they absolutely need to win this race.
That's
I
the only
just don't.
way. That's the
I
only. There's not going to be enough points to go around for them to
I
point their way
Yeah,
in.
I just don't see it unless there is like an early, and I mean early wreck that knocks a couple championship contenders either out of this race or, several laps down to where they're not getting laps back, right?
And what's
It's
interesting about that is both Chase Briscoe and um,
Cindric.
Austin Cindric, they're both very talented at road courses. So we've seen crazier stuff happen. That's for sure.
They've both won on this road course
There you
in
go.
the Xfinity series. Or I should say, I apologize. Chase Briscoe has won on this road course in the Xfinity Series. Austin Cindric had an awesome average finish in the Xfinity Series. Yeah, the Daniel Suarez is a guy who runs road courses very well.
Right. He got his first
Um,
win on a road course.
yeah, absolutely. He's minus 20. It's not impossible to point himself in, but at minus 20, I feel you really need to try to win this race.
It's
You
going to
need
have
to
to
at least win a stage.
He's
You
got
do.
to qualify top five, and he's got to get stage points in both stages, or else he's just going to find himself below the cut line the whole time.
And Joey Logano's in the catbird seat as far as the first guy I feel like that could really capitalize on somebody else's misfortune this weekend at minus 13. I'm kind of not surprised to see the well run dry on the 2 and the 22.
Absolutely,
Um,
they haven't
you
had
know,
great seasons.
they've won races. Joey won a plate race, right?
Right,
To advance into this round. And Cindric had honestly, I mean, they were awesome in that first round of the playoffs.
right.
But they've had misfortune, and it's come back to bite them, and not necessarily all his fault either, Cindric. Just racing incidents, but
He got the old
it,
Brad K syndrome at plate racing.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see how this shakes out. I want to talk about the average finishes in this track at this track, because I look at the average finishes and all I see is sans a name or two, playoff drivers. So there's going to be some tight margins of who's good at this track. Now, again, it's reconfigured, so things are a little bit different, but for the most part, it's still the same facility, right? It's um, a shocking name at the top of this list. In 5 races, Alex Bowman is the best average finish at 6.4. Um, and next, the second best average finish is a guy who was sweating it out, and because of people's misfortune at Talladega, got himself plus 14, and that's Tyler Reddick.
Yep,
Tyler Reddick is a great road course racer.
correct.
And somebody who definitely could be a threat here, to possibly win this weekend, or to at least have a really good Roval race, so he knows uh, he's into that next round where I think some tracks may favor him a little bit more. than this round of the playoffs did, which this round was kind of shocking for him, and where they just had been lights out on fire, just went cold. I mean,
Since Bristol, they have not been okay, and it's been
no,
very frustrating to watch from a fan's perspective, how much
yeah,
the 55 team has struggled.
right. Um, Chase Elliott, we have to speak of him again. His average finish is really good here in 6 races. He's run them all. Um, 2 wins. And you know, four of those 6 races were top tens, and all 6 of them were top 20s. So I mean, he's been very, very consistent. Oh, by the way, he's led 109 laps here, which is actually the most out of anybody.
And let's
So
not forget one of those finishes came with Kevin Harvick trying to take him out of the race.
yeah, with
Actually got
damage on the rear clip. Yep.
Yeah, he actually got a lot of damage to the rear end of that car, was able to stay in the race, and like you said, finished with the top 20.
Yeah. Now here's a name I have to bring out because it's interesting. He's also run all 6, so we're getting a true average of the 6 races here. Joey Logano is fourth best in average finish here at 8.7. Now he has not won here, but he does have 2 top 5s. He's got 5 top 10s and 6 top 20s. So only one of his races was outside the top 5. I'm sorry, outside the top 10. So as a guy who's on the outside looking in right now, he's got to feel pretty comfortable knowing that he's run really well here. I may be wrong. I just don't feel it for him this week. But like I said, he could certainly capitalize on somebody else's misfortune, especially if he is this consistent on the Roval. I want to speak of his teammate Ryan Blaney, who has won a race here and has that next best average finish. He is, as of right now, locked in, by points, in sixth place plus 25. So as far as those 2 Penske cars, they gotta feel a lot better than some of the others coming into this. Um, Christopher Bell, we need to speak of him. He's also a race winner here. Now, again, starts and he's pretty much locked, but he could still contend for a win. And if he does happen to win, he takes away that opportunity for somebody else to win themselves in.
Right.
And the same goes for anybody else who is really strong in points this weekend.
Yep.
Um, they always say sometimes a good offense is having a good defense, right? And the way you play defense here is to win a race and keep somebody else from coming in and advancing, or better your situation to go into the next round of 8. And I think Christopher Bell could certainly do that. Chris Buescher is also really strong at this track, a non-playoff driver. Could we see a non-playoff driver win? And that answer is absolutely, because we're going to talk about somebody else in a second, 2 of them,
Yep.
because
They both
uh,
happen to be in the same team again. Go figure.
yep, here we go. Can we just pick colleague? No, it's
Well,
AJ Allman.
I need to.
AJ Allmendinger has a
Yeah,
win here in
we'll
the
get
cup cars too.
right. We'll get to AJ and Shane, which is also entered into this race. Shane Van Gisbergen will be in the 16 colleague car this weekend.
Right.
Somebody that just keeps slipping through the cracks, and I think it's gets more interesting as each week goes by. Is that 11 car of Denny Hamlin? I watched his show Actions Detrimental. He doesn't seem to be carrying a lot of confidence. And the only reason I really bring up Denny is because we all know what happened at the end of that Talladega race. 28 cars involved in this wreck. Every single person, every single non-Denny Hamlin fan forgot that Denny Hamlin was a mile behind this pack when this wreck happened. So he missed it entirely. He was going to roll home maybe 34th, 35th. And I think if I remember correctly, he was minus 12 to the cut line. That was at the end of the Talladega race. All right. So they get
Yeah.
down the back straightaway. Brad and Austin make contact, and the big one happens. And Denny Hamlin putting along in 34th place, rolling it by everybody and watching his points swing 30 points. And all of a sudden, he's for the good right now. So it's a really interesting thing because that might have been the luck that Denny Hamlin needed to keep his playoff hopes and championship aspirations alive, because he comes home minus 12. Do you remember where Denny Hamlin finished last year at the Roval?
Um,
37th. He finished
yeah,
37th last year at the Roval. Okay. He doesn't have any confidence coming into this race. Zero.
and I was going to mention that because his average finish is 14th best in the series,
There you go.
at 16.8.
That's not,
Only one top five at this track in the
yep.
6 races he's ran. The rest were 5 top 20s.
Yep.
Not good enough.
Not good enough.
Um, he has led 25 laps here,
Right.
and that could have been virtue of how he started,
Pit
but he
cycle,
hasn't finished.
whatever.
Yeah, hasn't finished them well. And you're absolutely right. You hit the nail on the head there. What he did at Atlanta worked at Talladega. It didn't work at Atlanta.
Right.
And
I don't
I don't
think
know.
he meant to be back there. I think his car was struggling to keep up with the pack. He lost the pack at the end of that race. And
Yeah, it's just,
he literally ended up a mile behind everybody.
listen, you could be talented, you can be great, and sometimes you still need a little bit of luck.
Absolutely.
And Denny's definitely talented, and anybody watching this who wants to be a Denny hater, that's fine. But you can't deny the guy's talent. The guy's got a lot of wins in this series.
62
He
wins.
knows he knows how to get it done. Um, but yeah, he needed a little bit of luck on his side. Now, plus 30,
Plus 30 when he was
he's
minus 12.
he's probably going to advance. And it's he may not. I mean, he could get an early wreck, and it could just you could totally see a dejected Denny Hamlin at the end of this race, but it's probably not likely.
Right.
Um,
If he manages
the
his race, he'll be just fine. He's just got to make sure that he doesn't somehow end up a part of somebody else's business, which there's no way to predict.
right. And again, just to recap, the race winners on this track, Chase Elliott's got 2 of them, not in this car.
Right.
Just throwing that out there. AJ Allmendinger has 1. He won last year.
Yep.
Ryan Blaney has 1. Kyle Larson and Christopher Bell. And
And we'll
again,
talk about a little bit about Ryan Blaney's win, as if I remember correctly, Martin Truex and Jimmy Johnson took each other out of that race at the very last turn, and
correct, and
Ryan Blaney was the beneficiary of 2 wrecking leaders at the finish line.
you're absolutely right. So it was kind of gifted to him. I mean, he was in the right place at the right time.
A win's a
It was
win,
a
but
solid race. He was running third,
right,
but it's just yeah. So, that you got to take into consideration as well. But Ryan Blaney is currently above the cut. Larson and Bell, we said, are all but virtual locks. Just turn the ignition switch. Yeah,
right,
they're basically locking themselves in.
right,
Chase Elliott is one who needs a run. He's plus 13. He's not safe. Uh, Tyler Reddick, our regular season champion, he's plus 14. He's not safe in any means. I told you his average finish is good. That's great, but you still got to go out there and put the work in. So now we get into the fun part. Who's winning this race? And who's advancing into the round of 8, the prestigious round of 8? Because the great thing about the round of 8 for the people that are in it, if you win a race, you're in the championship 4.
right.
So this is it.
This is big
This is
time.
for this is big time. This is for the marbles, because if you get into that next round and you happen to win one, you're going to race for a championship in Phoenix.
Yep.
So this race is very important. It might be one of the most important races on the schedule in the sense of getting into that next round and what that next round comes into. And round of 8 is going to be fun. It's going to be wild.
Oh,
But
it's gonna
yeah. So I mean, Don, who you got? Who you got? Who do you think is who are your picks to win this race?
It's
Your
no secret. Anybody who's listening, anybody who's watching, anybody who knows the sport a little bit knows that the ringers of the road courses, especially here in the last few years, and of course, number 16 in the Cup Series, Shane Van Gisbergen, and the 13 car of AJ Allmendinger. They're both non-playoff drivers in the Cup Series, and both of them have an equal opportunity at going out there and just completely smashing this race. flipping the playoffs on their head because another. Can we see an entire round of a non-playoff driver winning the races? Like that's kind of crazy if you think about it. I think
Yeah,
we what was it, Chris Buescher? Was it Chris Buescher and then Ricky Stenhouse Jr.? Is that what we're dealing with right now?
that is what we're dealing with. No, I'm sorry. No, Ross Chastain and Ricky Stenhouse
That's right. My
Jr.
mistake. Ross won
Yeah, no,
Kansas,
that's okay.
and
But
then
Busher won the last road course.
yeah, Buescher won the Watkins Glen. That's right. So
Right,
and he beat Shane of all people. So you
right.
know, it's one of those things where it's a very strange feeling that we could be looking at a third straight um, uh, in the round of a non-playoff driver winning this thing, but I think it's more plausible than a playoff driver winning this race. Yeah, of course you got
Yeah,
your Christopher Bells and you got your Kyle Larsons. William Byron won Coda earlier this year. I was live in person for it. He put an absolute clinic on, but I just cannot. If you're giving me money to put on the table, it's going to be one of these colleague guys. They're too good. They're too technical. They're too sharp, and they're probably going to be battling each other once this thing gets down to the very end. Flip a coin, heads or tails, Shane or AJ. That's going to be my 1A, my 1B. But I have to throw a dark horse in there, right?
yeah,
And I think that it very well could be one of these guys below the cut line that really shakes things up. And we haven't spoke of him much. He hasn't had the best playoff look so far. He made himself into the round of 12 off of very good finishes in the first round. But that 14 car of Chase Briscoe, he is very capable and very talented of winning road courses. We've seen it before. And if I got to throw a little dark horse in there, somebody that's going to flip the playoffs on their head, throw a little wrench in the mix. Let's check out that Stewart Haas car and that 14 team. Possibly getting into the round of 8.
yeah, yeah. It's insane. Um, I have I have an idea that this race is going to shake things up. You could very well see something of that manner. I can't disagree. Chase Briscoe's won here in the Xfinity Series. Um, he could be riding the momentum, the birth of his twins.
Oh yeah,
Congratulations to the Briscoes, by the way.
absolutely.
Beautiful twins. But yeah, I mean, who knows? Who knows? And when there's a will, there's a way. So I'll give you mine. Um, and again, it's hard to pick against the colleague driver. It really is this week. AJ's won in both the Xfinity and the Cup, and Shane can win on this track just as easy as AJ.
Right,
So yeah, 1A, 1B. Just give me a colleague card across the checkered line first.
right.
And we'll just call it that. It's much easier to give you a dark horse. Um, which I actually think my dark horse is going to be the regular season champion of Tyler Reddick.
Okay.
Tyler is a really good road course racer, and they have not had a good round of 12 by
No,
any means. But this is a get it right track for them. It's a road course, and it's a track that he averages very well on.
he finished sixth
Um,
last year.
yeah, and I could see him being in contention for a win here. Um, Definitely to advance. I think the stage points will come, and they'll get themselves locked in as long as they keep it clean. Now, as far as who misses, I'm going to give you a shocker. Chase Elliott gets knocked out of playoffs this week,
It's
and
very well possible, especially with how not as good as he's been on road courses in the next gen era.
yeah, I think that's going to be my shocker as far as how the points sit. He's only plus 13. Um, I believe that he gets he gets knocked out. Now, who is it that knocks him out though? Is it a new winner, or is it Joey Logano eking one out because Chase Elliott has misfortune? Who knows? Or is it Daniel Suarez shocks the field and goes out and wins this thing, and he, by virtue of being a new winner, locks himself in. Who knows? But that would be an incredible dark horse, just like you said, Briscoe. They're capable. But don't sleep on Christopher Buescher. Chris Buescher, won at Watkins Glen. He runs really well here as well. Who knows? This race is an ultimate wild card, and it's just going to be fun to sit back and watch. And just as much as everybody else out there doing it, it's not going to be fun for the drivers unless you're winning. you
Yeah.
know, it's
You know what? The drivers, and as we've gotten to experience the stress level of the crew members and what they deal with
right.
stage to stage basis, everybody's going to be on pins and needles until the checker flag flies. Nobody knows what's going to happen other than the guys that have really done well enough to point themselves into a favorable position of making the round of 8. And like you said, Joey Logano's probably got the best chance of upsetting at least one driver that's technically above the
Leapfrogging.
line and then dropping him below the line. And I think the most
Yeah.
plausible one would be Chase Elliott, just
Right.
given his lack of momentum. Even though he's running okay at times, it just hasn't been the Chase Elliott that we were used to seeing in the Gen 6 car. So,
Yeah. I'll say this though. There's going to be an accident involving the playoff driver.
yeah,
It's just a
absolutely.
matter. It's just a matter of which one.
Right.
Somebody's going to get their dreams crushed by an accident this weekend, probably.
Absolutely. And like I told you, I would not be surprised if we see some very, very colorful conversations on pit road after this race.
Yeah.
Just the pressure, man, the pressure of the playoffs. It's a cutoff race. Every point matters. And when you miss 2 seconds on pit road and you start to feel your season slip away, sometimes that transfers into emotion and taking it out on other drivers on the track. So, it's going to be a wild one, Ryan. I'm excited
Yeah.
for it. Oh man, it's the round of 12 headed into the round of 8, man. What more can you say?
Yeah, I can't believe we're getting this close to the end of this season and just how much every lap matters. And it is insane to think about going into the round of 8. And I'm locked in, but I'm nervous for some of these drivers. And as a fan, we were all fans, right? Yes, we're media, but we were all fans, and we gotta remind people of that. And there's certain drivers we're pulling for, and I just hope it all works out
You're
this weekend, and
right.
we don't see a massive flip in points and things like that. It's just yeah, there's just so much going on, and we'll see,
Hey,
we'll see what happens.
that's what makes the sport fun. That's what makes it beautiful. This kind of anticipation, this type of drama, this type of excitement. This is why we watch the sport. This is why we tune in every week. So
Right.
it's worth every second. I'm glad I get to enjoy it with you and Nathan this season. It's been an absolute blast, and we still got a few more weeks of this thing, man. I'm excited.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's gonna be a sprint to the finish for the drivers and us, and I feel like we're gonna blink and it's gonna be over. But I'm just so excited to take it one week at a time and enjoy it.
Absolutely,
As side draft media and a fan, because
absolutely.
we're all fans. It's racing. It's what we love, and I'm here for it.
That's why we're here. But yeah, man,
Yeah.
another great episode, Ryan. Thank you so much for all the great information from everybody here at Side Draft Media. My name is Don. Thank you guys so much. Don't forget to like, don't forget to share, and leave some comments down there. We want to know what you guys are thinking. Who do you think gets knocked out of the round of 12? Who's not going to make it to the round of 8? Who's your championship pick this year? We want to hear. We want to talk to you guys about it. Engage, engage, engage. From everybody here at Side Draft Media, thank you guys so much. Y'all have a great weekend.